Ceruleum has been a MacGuffin of sorts in the FF14 storyline since the beginning. Primarily utilised by the Garleans, it'll also appear in Dawntrail, powering many of the technological marvels we will encounter in Tural. So, before we set sail, let's learn a bit more about Ceruleum. Ceruleum has existed in the world of Aetheris for thousands of years. The Allagans certainly knew about it, but whether they utilised it, and if so to what extent, remains a subject of speculation. It's a bluish liquid that can be found in naturally occurring deposits around the world, mostly in the form of pools as it maintains a liquid state. The substance itself is highly volatile, easily ignited by a naked flame or by a passing fire aspected monster. It's known to catch fire in the natural environment as well, but doesn't pose much danger of explosion unless it's concentrated. Ceruleum is the equivalent of petrol in our world. Its primary use is in Magitech engines. But unlike petrol, which is used as a combustion agent in say the engine of a motorbike, Ceruleum contains energy all of its own, meaning it doesn't need to be burned away to power an engine. Magitech need only be filled with Ceruleum to be powered by it. Ceruleum wouldn't see much use by the races of Aetheris, not even for its aetheric properties, as most could manipulate Aether already. It wouldn't be until around 70 years ago that Ceruleum would be adopted by the Garlean Empire as a fuel source for the first Magitech engines. This innovation came about in thanks to Solus Zos Galvus, whom we all know as Emmet Selk. It's likely he used Allagan knowledge of Ceruleum, as he played a major role in the development of the Allagan Empire. Here's a very quick history lesson. The Garleans are unable to manipulate Aether, therefore can't use magic or etheric arts. This goes all the way back to ancient Gog, the parent nation of the Garleans, who had the same inability to manipulate Aether. Ceruleum was the key to the rise of the Empire, powering their Magitech engines of war, allowing them to claim the entire continent of Ilsabard. Ceruleum itself is most abundant on the Ilsabard continent, which was one of the Empire's many pretexts for expansion. While it's most well known to power Magitech armor, it also has a number of positive uses. A great and simple example is its use to fuel the space heaters in Garlean settlements, or simply to keep the lights on via a Ceruleum power grid. Those desperate enough can even burn the substance to act as a primitive heat source. Another example which we encounter regularly is the airship. The airships we see utilised by the Garleans are fueled by Ceruleum, and the same goes for the airships we use in Eorzea. An example is Sid's airship, the Excelsior, also uses Ceruleum for fuel. Since the introduction of Magitech, Eorzea has also adopted the use of Ceruleum, but only for specific purposes. A couple examples are the airships used by the city-states, and the trains used by Ul'dah to ferry goods and supplies around Thanalan. Organisations like Garland Ironworks pioneered the use of Magitech in Eorzea and beyond, most of which utilises Ceruleum or etheric energy. A primary source of Ceruleum in Eorzea is the mines of Northern Thanalan, run by Amagina and Sons Mineral Concern. Interesting fact, the Garlean Empire were once Amagina and Sons' biggest customer, before their first invasion of Eorzea. The mining or collection of Ceruleum is a relatively straightforward process. Pumping stations are set up in proximity to Ceruleum pools, and the liquid Ceruleum is pumped via a pipeline network into processing plants, for storage and later shipment. Ceruleum itself doesn't require much processing, mainly filtering of foreign matter such as rocks, particulates, and liquids such as groundwater. It can easily be utilised in its raw form collected straight from pools, as we saw in Garlemald. The usual end result of this processing is Ceruleum cells or containers, which can be quickly switched out for empty ones, or Ceruleum used in its pure liquid form for refueling. There's not much risk in the use of Ceruleum these days, however certain environmental factors have had disastrous side effects if combined with Ceruleum. A prime example is the Battle of Silvertear Skies. The airship Agrius was the Garlean's biggest airship to date, and thus needed huge Cerulean tanks to power it. After the ship was taken down by Midgard's Stormer and crashed into Lake Silvertear, a massive amount of aether was released. The Ceruleum tanks of the Agrius ruptured, and combined with the ambient aether being released from the lake, caused a massive chain reaction that washed over the entire area. The result was the land of Mordona being crystallized by the mixture of aether and Ceruleum, an effect neither substance could do alone. Another interesting environmental factor of note is in the timeline of the Aethermal Calamity, where most Ceruleum deposits were rendered inert. The reasoning for this was the alchemical weapon Black Rose, which decimated the planet at large by halting the aether of everything it came into contact with. This included Ceruleum, which is etheric in nature. It's also likely that the rejoining of the first to the source would have stagnated the aether and caused Ceruleum to be greatly weakened, even if Black Rose was never deployed. Despite all this, Ceruleum continues to see worldwide use, even after the fall of the Garlean Empire, for its benefits far outweigh its risks. As we have seen in Dawntrail, there are areas rich in Ceruleum, which they utilize to power machines like trains, similar to what's currently being done in Garlemald and Thanalan. We just recently got a glimpse of the machines of war to be utilized, and I would not at all be surprised if they were powered by Ceruleum. Ceruleum will certainly be the salvation of the Garlean people, as they possess the primary sources and the expertise for its production. Given its importance to Magitech and Magitech's worldwide use, Ceruleum will remain a plot point for the rest of the storyline. But what kind of storyline, that remains to be written.